Okay, thank you for that. We have a different kind of week this week. We have a guest speaker.
Do I have to sit in the hot seat or can I sit here?
You can sit right. Well, no, because I want him to film you talking. Well, he could turn the camera if you don't mind being on the camera.
That's fine. Can I sit
Okay.
here though?
Yeah.
Okay. So then I'm not in the hot seat.
Oh. Okay. So when it comes down to her talking and whatever, we're going to talk about BMI. We're going to watch a little short video on it and how incorrect it really is. So anyways, Ken, you want to sit there and just have him turn the camera on you? Okay.
Okay, we have a reading from the book of Romans, chapter 12, verses 9 through 13 in the NLT. Don't just pretend to love others. Really love them. Hate what is wrong. Hold tightly to what is good. Love each other with genuine affection and take delight in honoring each other. Never be lazy, but work hard to serve the Lord enthusiastically. Rejoice in our confident hope. Be patient in trouble and keep on praying. When God's people are in need, be ready to help them always. Be eager to practice hospitality. I would like to say, we are to be ready to pray for each other. Being a good example of brotherly love looks like being generous to those in need. This is sharing our material goods with others, helping any way we can to keep others on the keto journey in life. Thank you for listening and God bless.
Thank you. Comments?
I like that. It's very important. We really need to encourage each other at all times, and just the idea of hospitality. I think that people don't know how to be hospitable, and we were talking about that just the other day. They don't know how to appreciate people, and I think we need to, one, within our community, we need to help, but also by doing so, we encourage each one to develop and grow, and then other people see that as an example outside of the group as well. And we get into a good habit of fostering hospitality and just being appreciative and being kind. And I think that's
Caring for people.
Yeah, people forget that kindness is not something you can do without Christ. It is a fruit of the Spirit, and we're told to be kind. But I think it's interesting that just because you're told to be kind doesn't mean you can be kind without God's influence in your life. So I think when we intentionally show that, we can really foster that amongst everyone else. And I appreciate that verse. That really is encouraging.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I did pretty much on women too, and the hospitality end of it, of giving yourself, and sometimes it might take giving earthly items too.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was important this year.
And I can stand up there and talk. I don't care. But then I can sit back down.
Go ahead, do whatever you want to do.
So I picked a video to kind of talk about BMI, and we all kind of know that it's
metric.
not a great metric. In the video, I'll talk about a bunch of different reasons, and then afterwards we can discuss thoughts.
And I got out the tape.
Oh yeah,
A better way to judge, they say, to
Yes.
figure your waist to height ratio.
Bless you.
I think my tape shrunk through the winter.
What happened?
If I step on the scale, I come in at 187 pounds and 69 inches tall. If we convert that to metric, then divide my weight by my height squared, we get about 27.5. This is what's called my body mass index, or BMI, and it's the main way American health professionals define obesity. My BMI of 27.5 puts me right in the middle of the overweight category. These BMI tables are everywhere in health and medical settings here in the United States, which gives us the idea that a low BMI is like the holy grail of health. But of course, nothing is ever that simple. Obesity can for sure put you at a risk of chronic health conditions. I'm not arguing the opposite. But BMI isn't a direct measure of body fat. It's only a stand-in. And when you compare it to other predictors of obesity like waist circumference or to measures of physiology like cholesterol, a high BMI isn't the most accurate way of predicting your risk for disease. Plus, it's not equitable. A BMI of 24 is no cause for concern in white people, but points to a higher risk of diabetes for South Asians. In short, the body mass index is a broken system. So I had two questions going into this video. How did the BMI become such a big part of our healthcare system, and is it actually useful in modern day? Our story starts in early 19th century Europe with a real Renaissance man. His name was Adolphe Quetelet, a Belgian scientist interested in astronomy, math, and sociology, but not medicine. He was more interested in probability and statistics, and when he was young, he moved to Paris and studied under mathematicians like Laplace and Fourier. And when he came back to Belgium, his whole jam was integrating statistics into other sciences like astronomy. And eventually, he wondered if he could apply statistics to the social sciences to understand complex phenomena like crime, suicide, or marriage rates. He published a bunch of work, but his most famous work was Treatise on Man, published in 1835, where he described his concept of the average man. In it, he proposed that human traits were measurable and they'd have some degree of variability which fell along a normal bell curve. This was the start of the field of anthropometry, measuring data about the human body. And with this data, you could, in theory, find l'homme moyen, or the average man. But how do you find an average weight? Taller people usually weighed more, so Quetelet proposed that average weight should be contextualized alongside height with a simple equation: mass in kilograms divided by height in meters squared. He called it the Quetelet index, and it's what we now call the body mass index, or BMI. But Quetelet's goal was purely mathematical. He wasn't trying to find a predictor of heart disease or mortality. From the beginning, he was looking for a metric that could be used on a broader, population-wide scale. Think less doctor's office, more public health department. But even as a statistical curiosity, he came up short. His BMI data came entirely from French and Scottish participants, which is one of the main critiques we see about the metric today. The data for the average man was based on a few white people, which set the precedent that a white standard was normal and anything else was a deviation. That provided a basis for explicitly bigoted scientists to justify their racism with data a few years later. Especially when imagined alongside Darwin's brand new natural selection theory, academics used measurable information about the human body, like BMI, as rationale that some people shouldn't have kids, which became the pseudoscience of eugenics. So anthropometry and BMI may have started out purely academic, but it was quickly corrupted by racism. Over the years, different scientists would come up with different variations for the BMI equation, like cubing height, or what's called the ponderal index, putting height on top and weight on the bottom. But for the most part, BMI was only used in the world of statistics. Doctors weren't using it in their practices since they didn't really know if it mattered. The big turning point happened when American insurance companies got involved. Just so we're all on the same page, life insurance is a fund that you pay into while you're alive, and then when you die, the insurance company gives a certain amount of money to your beneficiary. Usually this was your spouse, and it was a way to replace your income. Now, if the insured person lives a long life, the insurance company is happy because they collected hundreds of monthly payments over the years. But if the insured person dies early, the insurance company wouldn't be able to collect as many payments, but they'd still have to pay the same amount to the beneficiary. So to make up for potential lost costs ahead of time, if someone was deemed more likely to die early, insurance companies would charge them more money. It's the same for car insurance or fire insurance. Riskier cases are charged more money. So the life insurance companies had to figure out what to charge overweight people for insurance, but how? In the early 20th century, life insurance companies started documenting more and more cases of earlier death in highly overweight people. In 1910, an insurance company noticed that the health effects of a high BMI were worse for young people than for the elderly. That meant fewer monthly payments in the long run for overweight folks, so BMI emerged as a predictor of early death. But just like Quetelet decades before them, their data was wonky. Insurance companies only included BMI data from people who had the funds and legal ability to buy insurance. So once again, we got way more data from white, affluent Americans since we're still talking about pre-World War II America. Now, selection bias aside, height and weight were usually self-reported by the insured person, which also raises accuracy issues. And even more, no two insurance companies used the data in the same way. Some factored in age while others didn't. Now, people like to point out that these investigations were done by actuaries. Insurance statisticians, basically, not doctors. And for this purpose, that was the appropriate expert to use, someone to compile data and estimate risk. Medical professionals were just starting to learn why obesity was leading to all these early deaths from a biological perspective. And over the next few decades, we learned way more about the mechanism behind these pathologies. For example, we only learned how diabetes works physiologically in the 1920s, thanks to these two. And we didn't document an increased risk from obesity until 1935. And then we didn't really start learning about the biology of obesity itself until the 1960s. So in the meantime, doctors were stuck using data from life insurance companies to understand the risk of obesity. But all this time, we assumed that BMI was an accurate measure of body fat. We hadn't tested that assumption. So in 1972, a research group led by Ansel Keys publicly called out that assumption and asked, is BMI actually a good way of predicting someone's level of fat? Keys started the paper at square one, acknowledging that BMI tables come from life insurance companies, which gives us a skewed idea of what average really means. He then goes on to say that BMI probably doesn't predict obesity unless you're way overweight. And in the conclusion, he also noted that Ketelet never said his index predicted adiposity, or body fat. So in his study, he looked at previously reported data from over 7,400 healthy men from 5 countries. This table shows where the participants came from. It's linked along with all my other sources in the description if you want to check it out. Now, interestingly, they looked at a small sample of Bantu men from South Africa, but admittedly, this sample wasn't representative of other Bantu men, and the paper never says why. For all the participants, the researchers looked at height and weight, as well as body density using underwater weighing, which is something that's much more involved but more accurate. Then they compared different calculations, including a simple weight over height, the ponderal index, and the traditional BMI. In the end, they concluded that BMI was the best of these equations for predicting body fat, and they recommended using it instead of the other equations for population-level studies. And Keys would later go on to use BMI to come up with this U-shaped graph. It shows how your risk of early death increases exponentially with underweight and with increasing obesity. So by the 1970s, BMI was used by life insurance companies to predict early death, and it was validated as a good predictor of body fat, although again, with a mostly white sample. And following Keys' study, BMI became more relevant in the public health setting. Enter the World Health Organization. In the 1980s, the WHO published those familiar cutoff values for weight categories that we use today. And in 1998, the United States NIH and CDC followed suit. Now, funnily enough, the United States had been using a BMI of 27.8 as the lower threshold for overweight. But by adopting the WHO cutoffs, overweight now started at a BMI of 25. So overnight, about 29 million Americans went from normal to overweight.
That was me.
These categories weren't one size fits all. The WHO noticed that people of Asian descent saw an increased risk of chronic health conditions starting at lower BMI ranges than Europeans. And at the same time, they also noticed a trend that BMI underestimated body fat percentage in Asians compared to Europeans. So you could have a group of Thai people and Italian people, but the Italians would have less body fat and a smaller risk of diabetes compared to the Thais of the same BMI. To reflect these findings, some countries published their own BMI categories, like Singapore did in 2005. This oversight stems from the same bias that Ketelet held almost 200 years ago. Researchers have way more data from white, affluent people than they do for people of color. And studies that have come out in the last decade show the same phenomenon that the WHO documented in the late 90s. Risk factors of heart disease are more common at lower BMIs in Black, Hispanic, and Asian populations than in white people. And that might lead some people, both patients and doctors, to avoid looking at other risk factors since, hey, you're normal weight. Nothing to worry about, right? Now, some researchers have proposed BMI cutoffs specific to race, while others say that it's a waste of time, and plenty of doctors and researchers have suggested defining obesity based on how the body is working rather than how much it weighs. But ultimately, we find ourselves going in circles. What's convenient isn't as accurate, which isn't as convenient, and so on. So why do we still use the BMI? Well, it is useful to see larger trends across population, like the obesity epidemic in America. It's unlikely that we'll get the time and resources to measure everyone's body fat all the time, but BMI gives us at least a ballpark number to work with. So while healthcare professionals and researchers know that BMI is imperfect and problematic at the individual level, it's the most convenient and popular metric for estimating obesity at the public health level. And until a public health agency, whether it's the WHO, CDC, or some other organization recommends some other metric, we're stuck with the BMI for now. Thank you to all my supporters on Patreon for making this video happen. This is a topic I've wanted to explore for a while, and the financial support on Patreon frees me up to make videos like these. If you want to help support my channel and help fund videos, you can do so with the link in the description. Thanks for watching.
So the thing that's very interesting with the origin of it is that it was a metric not of fat, but of body mass, of an average. And then over time it evolved to be a fat ratio, even though it wasn't designed to be that.
Sorry.
The other part he didn't really touch on a lot is that people that are more muscular, they can be obese. So for example, we were talking about on the way here, like NFL players almost always fall in the obese category on the BMI because they're extremely muscular compared to like an average person for that height.
Yeah, for their height.
Yeah. And then Andrew had interesting discussion about it when he was from the military point of view.
So in the military, they use this, and they've used it since I was in, which was '89. And a gentleman that I was working with, learning from, I was in a school, he basically was in special forces, had been in special forces for about 10 years, had a gut on him, but could run forever, could do all of his push-ups, all of his sit-ups, like pass his PT test no problem, but his BMI was off, and so he got booted out of the military. And he was only like a couple years from retirement when they did this to him. And this was back in a particular president time period where he was making massive cuts in the military and forcing people out in any particular way he could. And this guy was one of those people. And you're like, the knowledge that the guy had, expertise in that field, and then he physically could do everything he was ever asked to do. It was just, he was a product of the system, which is you work hard, you play hard, and Special Forces drank a lot back then, and he just had a beer gut. And he got booted because he couldn't lose it in the time frame that he was given, which was not very long.
Is the government still requiring those BMI standards be met?
As far as I know, they are. The last I had to deal with it was 2013. So, and BMI is weird because I have a large neck, but it almost doesn't matter what size my waist is. I've passed every single time I failed the scale test for my height weight. When they would do the measurement for the BMI part of it, for the taping part that we can see in a little bit, I pass every time and never had an issue. But other people that were just like I was, fit, but didn't have a big neck, always got rode up. So just like this weird skew of how.
And the other part they kind of mentioned in here was that they surveyed affluent white people for like the initial data. Well, during the 1830s, when a lot of this 1830s, 1840s, when this data was gathered, it was like very in vogue to be like almost anemic, like very, very thin, especially the women. So it's like you have not only affluent white women, but women that at the time it was in vogue to be like twiggy, like super small, not muscular, just, waif-like. Because at that time, if you think about like peasant women, they would have been very muscular and like working on the farm. So it would have been an entirely different system if the data would have been collected differently.
Yeah.
I mean, think about surveying Hollywood, right? Surveying Hollywood women to make a metric for everybody else to follow would just be totally skewed.
I think now that you mention, I think back of my family's pictures of my grandparents, great grandparents, and everything. And they worked the ranch, they worked the fields, they worked.
Strong.
Yeah.
Right.
And they wouldn't have
picture
fit.
she has of her great grandparents.
Oh yeah.
They're very strong,
I mean,
healthy people.
Yeah, and like, most of us are of white descent, so a lot of us are German, Scandinavian, British. They were all big, muscular people, like the peasants were. The royalty a lot of times, men royalty a lot of times were very overweight, but the females were always like super tiny. They didn't want to touch any type of manual labor. They didn't want any muscles.
And then, because it was the white people, not the Orientals or the blacks or, it goes on and on.
Right. Like you think about like an athlete like Serena or Venus Williams, like some of the most athletic, strong females in the world, they would be obese on the BMI.
Mm.
And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
How is that possible?
There's no fat on them girls.
Yeah. Like they're more muscular than some men. Well, a lot of men actually.
Yeah. Not that I could compare to them at all, but a picture I sent back to Two Crazy Ketos today, and I was just trying to bring it up on my computer and I couldn't. It's one of the pictures I have as a whatever the screensavers are called. And it's a picture of Rachel from Two Crazy Ketos. And it was at KPL last year. And the look of, and, she won't say poop if she had a mouthful, but she's looking at me and you look at her face. And I sent it. I'm sure that they'll bring it up on one of their live shows. But I had just told her that I had this independent doctor had sent me a written report and it said I was obese. And yeah, that's when I read it,
Yeah.
I just like, what?
Based on,
I've lost 250 pounds and he calls me obese. And this was a doctor, small, slight built, but he did have a little belly. But
You offered to feed him a knuckle sandwich, didn't you?
well, he didn't say it to me in person. It was a written report. And so when I told Rachel this, she's just like, and this is what her face looks like in this picture. And so doctors going by that BMI and have no clue not only what even your body measurements could be so different than what your health is inside.
And that's where, alternatives to it that I think need to get a little more like use maybe. Some people do it, some functional like medicine doctors, but like, grip strength tests, like those are a great metric that show like risk for cardiovascular disease. And it's super easy. You just need I think it's called like a gynecometer or something like that. Is that what it's called? Dynamometer. And what's the other one? Like, can you stand up from the floor without using your hands? Like there's another, like, these are more like functional fitness versus some like kind of arbitrary, like your mass.
Yeah. Darren, your scale, you have one of those fancy, like inline or whatever.
Smart scale that gives you your breakdowns of all your body fat percentage and I think it does BMI and stuff like that.
Yeah, and a lot of those are like, they're not super accurate, but they're very helpful. Like to give you a ballpark idea.
They can vary.
Yeah.
The numbers can vary by up to
like
20%.
Like the handheld ones are.
That's a huge variance.
Yeah.
But if you just look at it as like, oh, it said I was 20% body fat then, and now I'm 15. It's like kind of just like
You just, as long as you're watching trends
Yeah.
and not,
Not the actual number, maybe,
As long
but
as
where
you're
you go
measuring
on
it
that
on the
graph.
same thing for the same person every time.
correct.
You can
Right.
see
Okay.
the
Real
direction
trend,
you're traveling.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's valuable in that sense.
Yeah.
It all depends on how much data has been used into the modeling that they
Yeah.
use.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
they send some kind of magnetic field or something up through your feet to measure it.
That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, the reason
Yeah,
those
you have
can
to look
sometimes
barefooted.
MRI.
yeah. The reason those are sometimes inaccurate because the electric signal only travels so far up, so it could be measuring the body fat of just your legs
Yeah.
or something like that, or like if you do the hand one, like his son had one of those and we would use it and like his would always be super low, but he would have a gut because his arms were all chiseled. So I was like, yeah, I'm 5% body fat. I'm like, it's literally going in your arm, okay?
That's so weird.
And
And that was not me, that was my son she was talking about.
and so really all this is telling us is there's not really an accurate way, any of us. And the same way, I got the tapes out, and Ken and I did. I think Ken was a little hesitant because we knew we shrunk the tape through the winter. And yes, that's the picture I was talking about. If you don't mind passing it around so
Not
people
at
could
all.
see what Rachel, 2 Crazy Ketos, Rachel.
She looked her up and down. You see the expression on her face.
She
when
says
told her
it
that she
all
was
in that picture.
That's
Uh,
the picture.
The idea, I had,
Michael Black might want to move this.
yeah, I had met Rachel and we, maybe a year and a half earlier. And yeah. So thank you, Evelyn, for doing that. But the look on her face says it all.
It does.
And that's like, people who are so dedicated to the scale. The scale doesn't work either.
Yeah.
And I was talking with my sister yesterday. It was her birthday. She turned 75 and she's been following the ketogenic diet now for a while. But she's so obsessed with this 5 or 10 pounds that she'd like to drop that she weighs daily, if not a couple times a day.
And who was this, your sister?
My older sister, yeah. Yesterday was her birthday.
Yes.
And so, yeah, when that look on Rachel's face, it says it all. But, I told her, put it away. Don't have that scale out. You don't need to be weighing because it makes her feel so bad that she gained a half a pound and only lost, 2 pounds doing that and whatever.
Did she say right back at you?
I'm weighing only the first of each month.
Because I know somebody who was talking about maybe this was a little while ago and your thinking has changed, but somebody talking about getting into a swimsuit and having to lose a certain amount of weight before they would be willing to wear it. And I said, girlfriend, wear it now.
Yes, I do. I am human too.
I know you are.
And,
But you're also you're a victorious overcomer in the body that you are currently in.
yes.
You don't need to wait to lose to go swimming.
True.
You don't need to wait to lose to go on vacation. You are already victorious. You are already a winner. And you are already worthy of wearing that swimsuit now.
Thank you. I did wear a swimsuit in
You're a soapbox.
June on the cruise, but I gagged myself when I looked in the mirror, I'll tell you. So, and that's what it is. It's the way we look at ourselves. And how come if we have a little downfall, we have to be so mean to ourselves? Like, oh, I failed again. It's not only just in our numbers, we just let too many of those things overtake us.
And Evelyn and I were discussing the numbers the other day, and she says, I'm so frustrated, that I've I feel like I've actually gained, and actually, I was like, but you also exchanged, and we all do this. Once you can start to be active, you exchange your fat. You've now burnt it, and then you start build muscle because you can be active.
Yeah.
So the deception was you lost size and weight because you burnt both muscle and and fat because you weren't being active and everything just fell off. Well, she also didn't know anything about the PSMF, and protein sparing modified fasting, which is so that your body doesn't lose muscle mass. Well, then she was able to be active and have energy and utilize the proteins. Well, that's great, but it also puts the muscle on. And so the deception is in the scale, because here we are programmed to look at the scale and celebrate the quote overall weight loss, but the muscle density is really being exchanged, not pound for pound. And we said, well, what if there's got to be a way to approach that properly,
So I said we need to change the narrative.
Yeah.
We are no longer losing weight. We are losing mass. I want to measure by the fact that I have lost mass and not by the number on the scale. So that's why my challenge for this whole time has been to put the scale away and just not even look at it, because I know I can lose mass and gain weight, but that number going up on the scale depresses me.
Right.
Yeah.
And my brain. But I can look in the mirror and say, I'm still fitting in my jeans. I still look good. I can see where certain things are becoming more muscular and certain things I'm losing weight. And, and if I eat too many fudge treats, I might gain weight. But you know what? Or if I have a cold, I told him, come through being sick. There is no medication out there for when you have a cold. And so it's like, I was doing sugar-free cough drops, and I know they have maltodextrin in it, and I know that inflames me. So after 2 weeks of having medicine and cough drops, then I have to do another detox, and I have to go through all the things my body goes through, like the first time I had to get into ketosis. So I had to go through all of that again, and I'm still going through it. I'm still detoxing in my body. My body has not gotten rid of all of the junk that I had to put in, because I had a cold and I had to function and I had to go to work and I had to be able to breathe to do that. So
they put so many sugars in the medicines just to carry it, Here you go. Well, that's great. And then it ends up, so that you can't burn fat during that time because you're consuming way more, carbohydrates than you're intended to, because they don't have to declare carbohydrates on medicine.
No, that's for sure. So now when we go to the doctors, we say we don't want statins. We've already ruled that one out.
Right.
All of us, know where we are with statins. So now what do we do when they, get us on the scale? I didn't even look at it. And she says, oh, you want me to put it in pounds? I said, no, I'm not going to look at it. I only weigh on the first of the month, but, if you do have a doctor who wants to say, oh, you got to do what's going to be the next thing that we need to do. Now, Darren,
ask them about what they know about nutrition, and they will say nothing. So therefore,
your doctor's really happy with your weight loss and everything else with your medication going on.
Well, it's two different doctors.
Okay,
One, the doctor taking me off my medication is my psychiatrist.
Okay.
And the doctor my medical doctor hasn't seen me in a couple months now, so I won't see her again until October. But she did say that I was doing good getting my blood pressure down and stuff. She's wanted me to monitor it so she can drop the blood pressure med dosage down if I start getting too low.
Okay.
And I've been taking it every day, and right now I'm doing pretty well on it, keeping it at just below normal most days.
Yeah.
So
okay, good.
I don't think it's gotten low enough that she would drop the dosage. So, but because.
So Sharon, what have you been struggling with besides what's going on in your life?
So much has been going on. I struggle when I have company because they don't all want to eat the way I do.
Right.
But it went pretty well. I only veered off for like one meal. But
yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, especially with all the traumas going on.
Yeah,
with all
that's really good.
but But like back to, I'm gonna
Oh,
go
yes.
back to what you guys were talking about. With me, I can weigh more and look better when I'm working out regularly because of the muscle. So sometimes you can't fret over. I have a girlfriend that turned me on to keto a couple years ago when I first got on keto, and she does great. And now she's carnivore. And so she was all excited telling me all about that. And but as good as she's done and as healthy as she is, she has this magic number. When she was 18, she weighed 116 pounds. And she thinks that that's where she should be, and it's just not realistic, I don't think. But she's doing great. But back to all the number stuff in your doctors and stuff like that. When I went the last time I went to the doctors, she said, all your numbers are excellent. What are you doing? Even though it said I was obese,
Right.
everything else, and I don't take any medications or anything.
Good.
But she's like, what are you doing? And it's funny because she said, well, do you want this shot and do you want that shot? And I just kept saying no. And she says, okay. I just don't feel like I should put things I don't need in my body.
Good. Good.
Anyways,
Amen.
I'm still struggling with finding something really crunchy that I enjoy. You know, I miss tortilla chips. That's my big thing.
I took avocado, and 2 dollops of sour cream, smashed an avocado and the sour cream together, and then we have a ranch seasoning
Right.
that I sprinkled into it, and then I dipped and ate that with pork rinds,
Yeah.
and it gave me that crunch, and it didn't taste like pork rinds, and it was like,
I think it's hard
I had
to
that
find
today, and it
the
was
right
very
pork
satisfying.
rind. I was at my daughter's and she had these really good pork rinds. She said she got them at Walmart. I should have took a picture of the bag, but my Walmart doesn't have them. I checked 2 places in Toledo and they didn't have them. But like some of the ones you could break your teeth on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
and I hate
Yeah.
it. The ones that she had were so good. And I thought, oh, you guys don't even know the struggle I have with pork rinds.
Yeah.
There's only one kind that I will eat, and I don't think it's the Mission ones. I think it's more of authentic, but they're airy and they're not
That's
hard.
what my daughter had.
Okay,
And she
I got
found
them at
them at a-
Kroger's.
Kroger's. Okay, I'll try
Kroger's.
Kroger's.
I'll send a picture of them in the group, but they are very light and airy, and they have that crunch, and that's my
That's what
favorite
she had.
snack. I
And
snack on every day.
And the flavor was queso.
Okay,
And
I
the
just get
flavor.
plain because I like plain. I just
Yeah.
kind of-
Well, these were really
Boring.
good. If you just wanted them as a snack,
Yeah,
as
I
it
eat them for
was,
a
they were
snack.
good.
very
But
good.
it seems like I mean, some of them are so
with you on
hard.
that
I felt
crunch.
like I could break my teeth.
A lot of those that are flavored, you really have to read the ingredients because there's
right.
a lot of sugars put
Right.
in.
And I don't have any
Yeah.
problem buying my own and seasoning it
Right.
myself. But I want it nice and airy, like you're talking about.
We need to go together and get those ones that you puff yourself.
Yeah.
That
Oh
you
yeah, I forgot about
Yeah.
pop them like microwave popcorn.
Yeah, so
You can put them in the microwave. You can put them in the air
who's
fryer.
got the detail?
I do. I can send it to the group.
We
I
also
thought I
like
had
the
some- I
Porking
think you
Good
did.
brand.
I
Yeah.
have struggled to find just a good brand.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I like personally is the Porking Good, and
Are
I
you
just buy 'em.
affiliated with them? I know Dustin is.
No, I'm not. Not
Okay.
yet.
Because Dustin has a link where you can save money when
Yeah.
you go. So Keto Simple has a link for the Porking Good, and they like the sour cream and onion the best. And their ingredients for the sour cream and onion looked pretty good. But the ones from Two Crazy Ketos, the ones that you puff and stuff, that you can just put seasoning in a brown paper bag, and as
You're
they
right.
come out of the microwave or air fryer, you just shake them up, and then you have seasoning on them.
Yeah, I would,
Good.
man, with that little avocado thing that I made today, like,
Yeah, I love avocado.
Those would've been
That's a
the best.
staple at my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one was a really good one too, like perfectly right.
Does anybody know how this? So I just started to store the avocados in the water.
I have been reading about
Game
that.
changer.
Does it work?
I'm not even joking you. I bought avocados that weren't too ripe because I thought, well, they'll probably ripen. Perfect. I'm talking about going on 2 weeks
Wow.
if they're not cut.
Okay, so
I
you just
swear.
put the whole avocado in the jar,
I put it so it
seals
covers
all the edges so it doesn't.
no cuts.
no cuts. I just put the avocado. I usually buy 2. I put them in the big thing of water, stick them in the fridge, and when I want it, I cut it open. It's beautiful. Now I'll have to eat the other half the next day,
Yeah.
obviously, but
Wow. That's
Or
cool.
send it to me, I'll eat it.
Leftover
that's-
avocados, leftover
Carol?
bacon. What?
That's what with avocados, it seems like you buy 3 at the store and you think, okay, this one will be today,
Yeah,
this one
you're-
tomorrow,
And
this
you're
one,
feeling them for
and then
the
they all
purpose,
get
like,
ripe
Can you send
the
a
same
picture of
time.
what you do with that?
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even, I ate avocado yesterday and today. I don't even remember when I put them in the fridge because I couldn't remember when I bought them. It's been that long.
Wow, that's crazy.
It
That's
is.
not normal.
It's not, it is
We
crazy.
sometimes eat them a little bit fast because
Yes.
they go back.
Well, I was throwing so many away. I thought, I'm gonna get this.
We never even heard what you're talking about.
Interesting.
Well, if my
I've seen it
avocado
on
plants
Instagram.
over there, 3 of them ever start producing avocados, I'll know I could preserve.
Yeah.
Plus, we
That's
have
me,
more
by the
we're
way.
sprouting in the
Take a
back
lot
room.
of water. A lot of water.
Right?
So, but that's really good to know. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
As far as kind of like the BMI and all the testing and everything, there's only one other thing that her and I have done personally. But again, I think they've come up with that it's really it's got maybe a 20% offness. But if you use it as your sliding scale, then it doesn't matter as much. But we've done the DEXA scan, and
What is that?
the good thing about the DEXA scan for me is it showed my bone density. And so I have a really high bone density, which is heavier. And so, those extra 5 pounds I need to lose. DEXA scan is basically a light x-ray. You lay on a table, the bar's above you, it goes all the way down your body from head to toe and scans you. And it tells you roughly like if you have fatty organs and stuff like it really breaks down a lot of different
Yeah,
details.
and like the distribution of the fat. So it'll be like, oh,
we
you're
can
about.
bring ours.
Yeah, we'll bring ours and we can like show if you guys are interested.
Yes.
You have your own.
Yeah. Well,
We have the
our
documents.
results. Oh,
Yeah,
our
the guy.
results.
I was
Yeah.
like,
It'd be
Well,
nice if we had our own.
I have a
Yeah.
traveling DEXA scan.
Yeah,
outside.
hey, you can make some bank.
Okay, Dr. Andrew.
Right.
And you're going
I
to
have
the
be
next
honest,
keto
I-
meetup.
That's right. Go to the keto meetup.
Dude, that's a great business
Your life is
idea.
changing.
I told
Go to all the keto
Yeah.
meetups and offer scans.
is
Yeah,
great.
I told
Just
her
don't
we should
announce
do
it
this.
out loud. Just write it down for people.
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
one done like 8 years ago or so, and I'm scheduled now to go in for another
Oh,
one
cool.
here. I'm going to have
Where are you
some
going?
teas and at Blanchard
Oh,
Valley.
okay.
But
So,
it breaks down your fat, your muscle, your organs, the organ fat, your bone, and your bone density. The lady asked me what was wrong with me. I was like, "What?" Like we both had it
I know,
done.
like, what?
And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, if you had any medical procedures done or so? I said, no, I mean, just the ones that I, had mentioned. And I hadn't had the titanium disc yet. And she's like, your bones are super hard. Like, I've never seen bones this hard before. I'm like, well, they did inject me with animantium. She didn't know what that was.
She's like, what?
She was like, what? I'm like, no, I'm just kidding. But it's a comic book thing. But
Your Wolverine.
yeah. So
Oh my God.
but yeah, so it
We'll
was
just call you Logan instead of Chip.
there you go. There you go. My grandson's name.
Is it genetics or something you've done over the years, or?
So following Dr. Janquist, if you YouTube him, he does this whole thing about bone density. His mother had osteoporosis, and basically figured out that osteoporosis is something you can reverse. It's not like, it's not a medicine you take to fix. It's an exercise you do to fix.
Lifting
And,
heavy weights.
I know lifting weights here.
Ish. It has to do with the stress that you put upon the body. So like gymnasts will have the hardest bone density in general. And apparently soldiers that jump out of airplanes and hit the ground really hard also have soft bone density. Because I did that a lot.
I don't want it for that reason, right? I don't want it for that reason. Sorry.
It went away.
So
Push you out of an airplane. Wow.
Yeah, so
Besides that.
So Dr. Janquist has clinics all over the world where you can go to. I think he has one in Cleveland,
I'll look it up.
but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
And basically, his mother was really upset. Hey, doctor said I have osteoporosis. Can you look into this? And just to give you the genetic thought process, his dad helped build something for NASA to land stuff on the moon. So he comes from this very smart caliber. And he's a doctor of mathematics.
I don't remember.
But he came up with this idea through the research that he did, that
Smell my kitty.
your body only needs to be stressed for a slight, 4 seconds in certain positions, mass positions, for it to activate bone growth, bone density. So,
So when
we can watch a video on it if you want.
what you're
Not this
telling
time.
us though is since this summer for my 70th birthday celebration, I'm gonna go jump out of a plane.
Yes.
That's gonna cure my osteoporosis, osteopenia.
And maybe some visits to Dr. Janquist's clinic.
No. I'm trying now, come on. But
I don't know that, so that type of jumping is a complete, fun, enjoyable. What I was doing was not. It's very aggressive, a lot of impacting on your body. Like when you hit the ground, you hit the ground.
yeah.
You don't land softly. So
There I thought he had a cure for me so I'd be healthy.
I did. Dr. Janquist is, if we can find the lab, it's a great
So
place.
it's called OsteoStrong. So it's like how it works is that basically in certain resistance bands, right? So at a certain point there's a higher load. So when the band is here, say you're trying to do a chest press, the load is heaviest where your joint is weakest, right? Because when you get up here, it's easy to hold.
It's then locked it in place.
Right. So how this works is it puts a heavier load on where you're weakest. So you may only be able to move about this much, but it's putting a big load. So it's strengthening or creating bone density through this really heavy load, but it's not like you're doing a full push-up.
Right.
You're doing this. But it's putting a massive load in that
In the weakest
small
area.
area.
And it's for seconds. It's not for
Yeah.
a long period of time. It's
Wow.
10 seconds. The people that do it go in once a week and they're do all 6 or 9 exercises,
I'm not sure.
and they're out in 10 minutes.
But it's really new. It's only a couple years old, so it's probably really expensive therapy right now.
I have no idea. It's brain science.
But when you think about, he was saying gymnasts and paratroopers,
Yeah.
that impact is boom, it's seconds, right?
Yeah.
So it's a similar kind of concept.
So Miss Leslie, with your OT knowledge, this sounds like something that you should have some knowledge on, or that you would want to acquire more knowledge
But
on this stuff for all of us to work on building stronger bones.
well, I was always taught that the weightlifting was what was good for your
Correct.
bones.
And that is absolutely correct.
Okay.
And that is
The
Okay.
heavier weight,
Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be heavy weight. Just
Yeah. But not that
Walking.
crispy. I usually use it to make like a wrap. But I seen where you could make Cheez-Its almost.
I did put
I
that
am
picture
gonna
of
try
the,
that.
in the
What?
group of the pork rinds. Just
Okay.
I'll send you Dr. Jenkins'
Yeah,
stuff
okay.
so you can research
Yeah.
it.
They look like
It's like her, I'm
Other
an
than
osteopathic.
squares.
Yeah.
I
So,
think that
Yeah.
might be
Brett went to
a
do
good
something.
thing.
And that's what keto is more about, more than just what we're cramming in our faces.
Mhm, yeah.
Yeah.
We're all getting pretty good at that.
Yeah.
I mean, we've always all been good about cramming the food in our face, but
Right.
getting the right food to cram in
You
now.
know what I don't, and this may sound bizarre to some people.
No.
I was always really thin my whole life. I mean,
Uh-huh.
stick thin, not attractive, like sickly looking. It was just my genetics. That's
Uh-huh.
how all the Hall Bisons are. I just don't want to lose weight. That's my struggle. Like I'm losing weight, eating, and I want to
Yes.
be healthy though.
Yes.
So in my mind, I don't want to get back to that sickly looking,
Right.
I guess.
Too
So-
skinny.
Yeah, but so I've already went from like 165 to 141, but also it's where I can't eat a lot that one
Yeah.
time. So I'm struggling with that.
Adding in more
But what
meals.
you're losing is the inflammation and the bad health.
Yes, and I know
So,
that consciously.
If you
I get
don't
it.
want to lose, you can cut down on the fat, which makes you satiated,
Mhm.
and eat more protein, and that'll help you continue to gain the muscle.
Yeah, I was gonna
Okay.
say, like, if you're doing pickleball or
Yeah,
if you're doing any
uh-huh.
kind of weightlifting,
Yeah,
like,
I do a little bit at home and
But
at
yeah, but higher protein, lower, the lower
But
fat.
you need a minimum amount of fat every day
okay
for
yeah.
good brain health, for
Yeah,
vitamin
I don't have a problem with
bioabsorption,
Mhm.
so that the things that you do put in your body can be absorbed by your body, and you can get the best benefits out of the foods you eat, and all out of the, if you're taking supplements, electrolytes, and that kind of stuff, you want them to be able to absorb into your body. So you need a minimum amount of fat every
Mhm.
day.
Yeah.
But once you have that minimum amount, just eat protein until you're
Like, what do you mean? How much is a minimum amount? Like,
I did mine when I was started doing the protein sparing modified fasting. I did my calculator through Maria Emmerich,
yeah.
and Maria Emmerich has a calculation for when you're doing a regular eating day
Mhm.
and when you're doing a protein sparing modified fast day. So I think the protein sparing modified fast day, which is less fat,
Mhm.
for me was 30 grams of fat.
Okay.
So a minimum of 30 grams for me, but you can get your own
Oh, okay.
thing
I'll have to
done.
look into
on her
that. Know
calculator.
any?
Maria Emmerich calculator.
Okay.
I can find it for you, and if you want me to send it to the group.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's a minimum that once you type in all your numbers,
Mhm.
I don't know if everybody has that same minimum or
Gotcha,
not,
yeah.
but that's what you need to be able to absorb all the things that you're putting in your body.
So back to the BMI thingy-mabobber. Most of our doctors now suggest that we use our height waist circumference ratio, which is ever how tall you are, your waist should be half of that measurement. And
Hold on, I'm checking.
because
You're in trouble.
and that because the inflammation, etc., that you get in your around your liver, this is where you see the people with the big bellies. It's their liver's so enlarged, and all their organs are really being overtaxed with the extra around your waist. So, but none of them are perfect. And like I said earlier, this shrunk through the winter.
Yeah.
For instance, Ken is 70 inches tall. His waist should be 35, and he's a 39, according to this. But then again, yeah,
I wear 34. I don't understand what you're talking about.
and so, and then mine, I am 68 inches tall. It should be 34 is my waist, and it's a 36. So, we're both, too fat. Yeah, according to even using this.
No.
But
No.
I know personally a lot of mine is excess skin.
Right.
So, you just got to find what works for you and don't stress over any of the numbers. I know for myself, this last week, because I've been doing like a 3-week, cutting out a lot of extra things, be it cheese, heavy whipping cream in my coffee, just extras that I was looking at that I've been kind of nibbling on and doing a little more of through the winter. And I commented to Ken, I'm kind of anxious for the first of the month come around where I could weigh, and I'll probably be disappointed, but I could feel a little less roll over the top of the pants. So, whatever works for you. But getting healthy is not all, like we've said, the scale, the measurements. It's how you're feeling and what's going on inside of your body. So, and I think that is
And don't discount the non-scale victories.
right.
They're important.
So, but anyways, challenges. Oh, Mr. Ken. I'm going to hit you up first.
Ken, he's not ready.
He sits in number 1 chair.
Well, that's okay. I'm doing better, but I'm not there yet. I still struggle. There's something about in the evening that I don't know. It's above the head. It's not below the head. I can tell you that.
Above the head hunger? No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's
Below the neck or above the neck?
Above the head it's in my head. Below the neck, it's my body that's wanting it. So it's usually above the head that affects me the most. And it's usually after 8 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing better, but I'm not quite there. Still working on it. Hopefully I'll succeed.
And what about your Bible verses and...
They're coming probably twice a week instead of every day. But like I said, there was a moment where I did them every day, but I quit. And I went back at it for a year or so, and then I quit again because I didn't think anybody read them or seen them, but I was told not to do that again.
So how can we encourage you?
By what you just did. What have you posted lately, pretty much. And that's encouragement enough to get me right that day or maybe that next morning.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the encouragement I need. It's just that question, what have you posted lately?
And maybe your evening snacking, maybe we shouldn't have stopped and bought, 10 pounds of garlic bologna or something?
Oh, yeah. Worth it.
Oh, 2 pounds?
1 second.
Fry some up while you're out there.
He has to see if it's still there.
There should be some of it should still be there.
So, Darren, how are you doing on your challenge that you set for yourself?
I'm keeping up with them. Some days it's mental struggle, but I haven't given in and not done them.
Uh-huh.
So there are some days that some of the chair exercises get pretty hard on me. I'm starting a new thing in my walk with God. I'm starting it this weekend. I'm starting to take a pure Sabbath day, and it turns out that the day of my Sabbath is usually one of the days that I do my exercises. So I'm moving them to Sunday after church. So my Sunday is going to get a tad bit busier, but I'm turning off notifications on my phone except for texts and calls because I can't go silent on my family.
Right.
And I'm
Okay.
staying off screens and everything for starting at evening on Friday and going through evening on Saturday. So
Nice.
I'm going to try it. I read it in a book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. The guy who
I've heard of that. Is it? Yeah.
it's a good book.
It's a good book.
The guy who does it, he told what his family does on their Sabbath, and it's not good for a keto discussion.
Sure. Sure.
They take for their Friday night meal. They make a big skillet cookie and cover it with ice cream and let it melt, and they all sit there and eat it for dessert
I can make
on
that
their
keto.
Friday night. Yeah,
I
you
can make
it
that
keto. You can make it keto.
All day I dream about food has
And
a
then
skill cookie.
they basically spend a good majority of their time feeding their face. And-
So they're not bored.
no, well, he's a minister in one of the bigger churches in Portland, and he's an author. So he actually
Does it have low in sugar?
he actually suffered from burnout and was the lead pastor of a multi-site church, and he stepped down to be a campus pastor
Right.
because he
Even the plain
was suffering
gets-
from burnout. It
Yeah.
was just too much for him.
Yeah.
It's good that he recognized that before it
Yeah.
became a real bad issue.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So he's tried to employ. He took a look at Jesus's life through the Gospels, and in the last part of the book, he lists some things you can do to actually model Jesus's life to try to keep your life in balance and in control and slowed down so you're not so constantly a slave to your phone and things like that. But it's a real good read. I finished the last chapter. I just got the epilogue left to read. I finished the last chapter today.
I'm gonna order that book.
Nice.
It's a
Thank you
good-
for sharing.
Yeah.
And Leslie, he has to thank you for his chair exercises.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was noticing as we came in today, I was just like, you look different,
Mhm.
significantly different from last week.
Yeah.
You know, I was just like, I cannot believe the
I
difference
got on the
week to
scale
week.
this morning and I lost 3 pounds this morning from Sunday morning.
Wow.
Right.
Well, 2.9.
Yeah. You can round up.
To the
3
point
points.
that the pants I'm wearing are 3 sizes smaller than what I started out in, and I
Wow.
think I can go down
Great.
there.
Great.
Yeah, I mean,
Huzzah!
Huzzah!
that's right. And I mean, you can visibly see the difference in, you know,
Yeah.
in your face, in your arms,
Yeah.
just overall
Yeah.
size. I'm just like stunned at the progress you've made in
We
such a
talked
short
about
time.
it.
Yeah.
I get a lot of
We all talking
compliments
about it
from
behind your back.
Yeah.
I get a lot of comments from the cleaning team at the
Oh,
church.
like
that.
too.
See, you're probably inspiring other people to maybe
Hopefully.
Yes.
take that same road.
Yeah.
And being super strict, I'm assuming it's still helping with your the
Emotional.
epileptic seizures, those kind of things, or
Well,
is it-
I haven't had a seizure in over 10 years.
Wow.
Okay,
That's
good.
fantastic.
It's been covered with
Probably needed that.
medication.
Sure.
So, and as of April 1st, I will
Like,
find
oh,
out.
you be eating that?
I will
That's
I
why they're
will most
hidden in the
likely
drawer.
go totally off my meds that day, or the following day.
Wow.
I've got a group that night, so I'll take them that night.
Yeah.
So I'm not, because I'll be driving into the church. But
Yeah.
I'll go off them the next day, and then we'll see how that works. And if I'm going to take a week or 10 days before I try
For sure.
to get out of the house or anything to make sure I'm
Yes,
stable and everything.
that's great, the
Yeah.
progress. So
Great.
There's, yeah.
A lot of good stuff going on.
Andrew, how are you doing on your goals and your challenges you set for yourself?
I'm winning in some areas and absolutely failing in others. I don't understand it, but I don't know. I will not be able to fail pretty soon. I'll be walking a lot. And I think about it and I'm like, I need to really be preparing for that. So I have to start implementing some old habits of doing everything in the morning before, which can be interesting. I'm trying to figure out how to do it because I have a routine of how I start my day already, and it has a lot to do with I'm prepping the day to wake her up.
The whole day. Okay.
So
Well, they have a joint routine together, and so your routine's gonna change because she's not gonna be with you.
yeah. And I am going to most likely be doing a lot more walking than I'm currently doing right now. And, you know, of course, I can just go home at the end of the night and go to bed. But I came to that realization today that I've got to change something else that I got going on. And it's easier for me to do it in the mornings than it is any other time. It's just the way I've been wired from probably the military more than anything else. So we'll see. I'll let you know next
Okay,
week.
you're working on things. Yes,
Yes.
that's the important
'Cause
thing.
I'm
Baby
as far
steps.
as the goal goes, I'm failing. So
Okay,
there's tomorrow.
there
Thank you,
is.
everyone.
Emily, what's going on with you and your goals and challenges?
So our goal, I think, was the rock climbing and then being more compliant with the keto carnivore, which we're pretty solid.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time that we had a cheat of any sort, really.
We will be cheating this weekend. We already
Yeah.
know it. It's already a dialed-in thing.
And the cheating is our friends Steve and JD. They aren't carnivore or keto, but they eat very, very healthy, clean food in general, and we're their guests. So we're trying to not be too staunch about it.
Yeah.
So if they make us
more
cookies,
paleo, like Whole Foods and stuff.
yeah, and
Yes.
they're both very fit people. So
And you wouldn't know, like, if I gave you his title, you wouldn't know it because most of them are not in good shape. He's a neurosurgeon, and most neurosurgeons are really obese people, and this guy is not. They all think he's a PT doc, which is kind of funny because then he's like, "No, I'm a neurosurgeon." And then they all start crying because apparently that's a thing.
yeah, I don't know.
So, Leslie,
Wow.
you've had so much going on in your life
I
recently
do.
over the last couple months.
Yeah.
But
Yep. Traveling to Florida and
Right.
softball started, so that's crazy.
and you went on your missions trip. And so how have you been sticking with, how do you feel about where you're at in your keto health?
Better, good. I was struggling because my daughter's at college. It's easy for me to just buy what I need, and I don't have all the extra stuff, and I eat what I have in my fridge. So, I ended up down to I think I had an avocado, I had some steak and some yogurt, and I had a few asparagus spears left. I mean, that's just what I eat.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't bother me. But I think because I'm busy all day, I like to eat into the evening later at night.
That's why you're staying up until 3 a.m.
Yeah, so I just
that
stay
you
up. I
can
don't sleep anymore. I just eat all
Eat.
day.
Do what you gotta do.
I can't go to bed until 8.
Here,
I fell at the end of the day.
It's 3 in the morning. What
Cannot
else is
lose
there to
another
do?
I just promised myself I wouldn't get up and snack. I didn't promise
Right,
myself
take it
I
all.
wouldn't stay
Yeah,
up.
just keep
That's
it all beside my bed.
Stay up all night long.
I do have pork rinds beside my bed. Anyways, so, but it's much better and I'm doing better and not that I don't ever slip up because I do.
Oh, no.
Carbs are no problem to me. It's the sweets.
Which are carbs.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is true. But, yeah, carbs are no problem for
So
me.
savory breads aren't a problem for you, but
Bread,
desserts
yes,
with sugar are a
yeah.
problem.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
I brought fudge.
Say that.
I'm not put-
It's good, no sugar.
Oh, I know it's good. I've had your fudge. It's
I
amazing.
want some.
Okay. I thought it was for
Somebody
Stacy
grab
for her
it.
birthday.
Oh,
We'll share. Pass it around.
Sharon, let's jump back over here to you. 'Cause you've been missing in action.
I
How are
have.
you, besides the one meal with,
Oh,
how
yeah,
are you doing?
I'm doing good.
And not finding the crunchies, though.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. But I felt that way even when I did paleo or whatever. I
Uh-huh.
always felt like I needed something to crunch on.
Uh-huh.
But I've been doing intermittent fasting.
What kind of hours do you do with
I
that for
do
yourself?
about. It varies on what I got going on
Uh-huh.
each day, but I usually eat about 1:30, and I try to be done eating by 6 to 6:30.
Okay.
But that varies depending on my schedule.
So you give yourself 4 to 6 hour eating window.
Sometimes 5 to 6,
Yeah.
but I try to keep it less. But
You gotta
you can't do that when you have in-home company.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta make them breakfast and stuff like that. But I even stayed on it. I even intermittent fasting most of that. Except
Yeah.
one day was a disaster, but
Yeah.
that happens. But my challenge was to up my activity, and my insurance covers the Y, so I've been taking pickleball, and I love it. I love it. I love it. So I've been doing that, and I have been very good about doing. There's a gal that I follow that does a free weight workout,
Uh-huh.
and it's a 5-day-a-week routine, and I've been doing that, and now when my company was here, I only missed one day. I even got up and did it when they were
Uh-huh.
out of the house. But I feel good about all that stuff. I've been, been doing well with the fasting. I've been doing well with the activities. You think the weight, and then we're talking about the scale again. You think it should, but I've also tried to up my it's hard. I think I'm not as big of a person, so sometimes I think
No,
they do
thank
it
you.
for somebody in general, and I have to tweak that a little bit.
Oh.
I have to
She could stick some in the freezer.
I have to tweak that a little, I think.
Yeah. And that's what we
Well, I
find.
have lost 7 pounds, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah. And just finding what works for Sharon. What is
Right.
Sharon keto?
Right.
And even that, it varies. I know since I started how drastic I have changed over, 2.5 years.
I'm in trouble.
So,
Uh-oh.
yeah, just keep trying to find what works best for you and tweaking it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's what Evelyn and I were talking about, how to make adjustments to make sure that, the gaining is not there. And, is it important to do the protein sparing style of fasting? It's like, well, why do we want to do that? Especially if it's attacking your mind.
yeah, and see,
You
that
know?
does not work for me.
Yeah,
I
and
don't
We're like,
follow
okay, I get
Maria with her
the fact that
ideas.
you're trying not to lose muscle, but right now, why don't you lose muscle? Well, because everybody says muscle's hard to put back on. Evidently, it's not. So, because it's coming on. So just go ahead and wipe it out, because what happens is you'll lose the muscle that you don't want, but it's also got a lot of marbled fat in there from over the years of all the other eating. And so it's like, well, if you lose both, that's okay. You'll put it back on later when we start to exercise, etc. And so we just got to tweak it and experiment.
How often do you do that? Where you do the
Protein sparing modified fasting. I used to do it once a week. Over the summer, I did it 2 days a week.
Okay.
And it helped me lose a lot of mass, but I didn't lose a lot of weight.
Okay.
But I got a lot smaller. But I have trouble.
And she wasn't weak from.
Yeah,
You
no.
know, so
no.
because you've got increased protein, and you don't have the weakness that you get from a regular.
You're still
long
eating on
fast.
a day when you're fasting. You still eat, but you eat things like egg whites, and you eat like chicken without the butter on it, without the extra fat on it. I mean, you still have fat. You don't have any fat from dairy, so you can do like coconut oil, olive oil, avocado oil, that kind of stuff. You can do any kind of meats, but usually leaner meats like shrimp, chicken without the skin, that kind of stuff. And it actually fits more with the standard American diet of what they think is healthier if you're eating meats, because it's the low fat portions, because you're doing leaner portions. And when you add the fat in, you're doing only certain types of fat and no dairy. And on the days when I do PSMF, I don't do any coffee because I like almond milk and I like heavy cream in my coffee, and I don't do coffee on those days because it doesn't.
If I have the coffee the way
I
you
can't
like
have
it.
the coffee the way I like it, so I don't drink it. So
Right. No,
Yeah,
that's smart.
so-
But it's for a specific purpose. It's not an extended thing.
yeah. So what I have found in my fasting lifestyle, it is harder for me to fast while I'm working. I work 5 days a week. I work at a school. And for me, breaking a fast does stuff to my body that I don't want to experience while I'm at work.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, I never know if when I break a fast, if that's going to happen or not. So I choose not to do it. I either do it the last day I work of the week so that when I break it, I'm not at work, or I don't do it. And so I've been thinking about what I'm going to do this summer when we're out for the summer, because during the summer, I need to stay active and I need to incorporate more fasting for myself. Because
But we have to. Yeah, that's why we're talking about how to tweak it. And really
And
make
that's what it is,
appropriate.
tweaking it for yourself.
Yeah.
I know that with my labs, what they are, and the doctor who reviews all my labs and gives me his opinion, etc., does not want me fasting.
Right.
I eat 2 meals a day, but I don't nibble, I don't snack. And that's not what he said. I just don't have a desire to
Right.
do any snacking, which is really
and
good.
depending on
And I have to be high fat. I
Yeah.
cannot do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, well, and depending on who you listen to, I was telling him, I'm like, Dr. Boz says with the dawn effect and throughout history, when you rise, you eat. That's how our bodies are made. So Dr. Boz says you should eat breakfast and lunch for your 2 meals a day. And then she says anything after 1 p.m., if you are hungry enough, eat a can of sardines. And that's the only thing you're allowed to have after 1 p.m. You'll really know if you're hungry or not.
I like sardines, so that won't work.
But that's the only thing you're allowed to eat if you're hungry after 1 p.m. So her whole fasting thing is rise and eat in the morning. And then a lot of people do I have coffee in the morning, but then I don't eat until the afternoon. And that's how I do it. I don't break my fast until 2 p.m. unless it's coffee. So I'll have a coffee in the morning, then I don't eat the bulk of my food until after 2 p.m. And then I have a lunch at school, and then I have dinner when I come home, and then I'm done. And then I don't eat again the next day until 2 p.m. But
changing when you eat actually does different things for your body. You got to keep your body guessing so that it doesn't get so used to the pattern that it stops gaining health. Because your body, like they were saying, if you eat less to lose weight, eat less to lose weight, eat less to lose weight, your metabolism starts to get slower and slower and slower because it's not being fed. And so when your metabolism will actually come down to meet the calories that you're taking in. So now, if you're only eating 1,000 calories a day, if you all of a sudden go back to 1,200 calories, you're going to gain weight. And you don't want that. You don't want to starve yourself to the point that your body gets used to it at that level. You want to keep your body guessing as to what's coming next. So that's why you throw in a fast here or a different time of day eating.
And whatever works for you, that's appropriate.
And that's what it is. It's
Yeah.
whatever works for you. You
Yeah.
find what works for you.
Yeah.
So, Carl, how's it going for you?
Pretty good.
He avoided the cookie.
I avoided the cookies.
No, I'm getting
I
up in
have
the
to
middle
say
of the
that
night.
she was mad at me. We went out to eat the other day, and we did eat. Everything was good, but I did eat some chips.
I'm
so.
not mad.
She's
I'm
true. She's not mad.
jealous
She's
because
jealous.
he's so stinking thin and muscular, and he doesn't work at it. Like he says he does. I mean, it's a mental workout for him to say no to that cookie, and that cookie had nothing to do with me. But I'm jealous. Like he dropped
I
the
did
weight
offer
so
to put the weight back on so that we could be back on the same track, and she said that's stupid. So I'm not going to do that.
Thank
But
you.
what I did, what I do want to do is I want to begin more real exercise and come up with a good plan for health other than just busy work. Because when I'm at work, I put in 10,000 steps in a day and don't think about it, and she's mad at me for that
he
because
comes
I don't
home
think
one
about
day,
it.
he's like 13,000 steps and 14,000 steps. I'm like, seriously? He's like, well, it was a truck day. I had to unload the
Functional
truck.
Yeah,
I'm
and
like,
exercise.
I'm
it's all
working my
functional
butt off to get to
exercise.
5,000
And
a
so-
day, and he's.
But I don't consume anything at work until I've been there for multiple hours, and so it's all burnt off from the night before. But I have not been eating after bedtime, so I'm still doing good there. And I did the other day when we were making food. She was just like, "Oh, you haven't eaten yet. You're not sitting down with the rest of us." And I was like, "I'm gonna eat," but I was cooking, and I made stuff for everybody, and then I made one, and it was late for me, even later than normal, which was really good because I was full, and it was a busy next day, so I was still full, had plenty of fat in me, and I had stuff to burn the next day, so it was good. And I do think the same thing that she was going through. This medicine is definitely kicking me out of ketosis and making me have desire for more carbohydrates that I didn't want to have. So I'm going to have to be super careful on that. And so in the reading and studying, right, I ran into something else, and I was actually looking. I was looking in the Word of God, and I started thinking about how do we have relationships with God? Do we have relationships with God through the opinions of our theology, such as our denominational works and those kind of things? Like every church that we go to has a specific belief system. And will we ascribe to this? Well, and I started thinking, should we ascribe to that? Or should we look at the theology through our relationship with Christ? We should have a relationship. When the first person that had a relationship with God was approached by God, how did he do it? He goes, "I'm sorry, God, you don't align with my theology." No, he didn't do that. So I started thinking about how we should be approaching our relationships with God. And I started reading in Genesis, and I ran into this, and I want to make sure that you all hear it because it's very interesting. So if you're not familiar with the fall of man, the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, "Yea, hath God said, he shall not eat of every tree of the garden." Right? And so it went on, and the serpent tricked the woman, and then Adam, who was right there too, also ate of the fruit. So you can't blame one or the other. But the curse was then given out by God once he found them, and he says, "Where are you?" And he heard the voice of God in the garden, and he says, "I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself." And God said, "Who told you you were naked?" So anyway, as he keeps on going down, and as he turns out his punishment, the first thing he says was, and the Lord God said to the serpent, "Because you've done this, you are cursed above all cattle. Above every beast of the field, upon thy belly thou shalt go." So this is the beginning of the curses. Okay? And you're going to eat dust all the days of your life. So he sends the serpent to crawl on his belly. And then I'll put enmity between thee and the woman. So there's always going to be a problem between the tempter and mankind. Okay? And between thy seed and her seed. And it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. There's another curse. Woman, he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception, and thy sorrow shall bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. So, again, part of the curse. Now, listen to this one. Unto Adam he said, because you hearkened unto the voice of your wife, and hast eaten of the tree, of which I commanded you, saying, thou shalt not eat of it, cursed is the ground for your sake. In sorrow thou shalt eat of it all the days of our life. Thorns also and thistles shall bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. Okay? Now wait a minute. You have to work the field. Okay, is what he's saying. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread till thou return unto the ground, for out of it was taken. For dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return. So remember, consumption of bread is a condemnation. It's a curse from the division of our initial sin. And if you're people of the book who have been redeemed, you don't want to live under the curse, so don't eat bread. I mean, think about it. It's like we have to understand that it was part of the condemnation. Once we have solutions, we should be able to say, hey, I need to take care of my body. God restored me to him, and I'm no longer under the curse, so I don't have to be lied to anymore. I don't have to be thinking like everybody else says, eat bread. It's timeless. It's in the Bible. Yeah, but it was part of the curse. And so, as part of the curse, why do I want to continue to ascribe to the behavior of the curse? Once I've been redeemed, that should be my mental idea that I should be saying, hey, wait a minute. I should do what God wants me to do, which is take care of my body. And since it was part of the curse, I don't need to behave that way anymore. So anyway, I just thought that was just a mind-blowing thing, because I've read that so many times, but I just never equated bread as being part of the curse. In that particular translation, using bread, it was not just a meal, it was specifically bread and grains in the farming, and the toil that goes with it, and the consumption of bread for your body. And so basically, it's condemnation unto death. And so...
Well, if you think the other part of it, you were saying the toil of the land, well, people don't really do that anymore. They don't really toil.
Right.
Here in this nation, at least.
Right.
It's all very mechanized, so it's
it
like...
is, right.
You're not actually out there like, like the farm I work at, we toil.
But
in general, they don't.
Yeah.
You're using historic.
Yeah, we're using historic methods for you.
Yeah.
Like,
so
people have GPS-driven equipment, they don't even have to drive anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of...
They're not toiling.
No.
I mean, and we've come up with all different ways around the curse, but we still eat the bread.
Yeah, right.
No reason.
So maybe we should think of Carl's little reading and discussion tonight whenever we get that temptation of having that bread.
Are you a person of the curse? Because if you've been redeemed, you shouldn't be.
Sometimes it just takes a little aha moment.
I was looking for something else, and it just blew up in my face. I went, wow. Stop eating the grain, Carl.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Evelyn, your steps. Where are your steps?
Well, 2 days this week, I sat at home. I had the day off. I had Monday off of school, and I had Wednesday off of school, and I didn't get near enough steps in, but I needed a time of rest because after my daughter's musical, I think I twisted my ankle. And so Carl's like, you need a day of rest.
Well, you put a ton of steps in on those,
so
set
I had
construction days.
Super amount of steps over the weekend, like 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 on some days when I was only hoping to get 5,000. And then on the days of rest, I only got like 1,000 in those couple days. But by today, before I even went to lunch, I had 5,000 in, so I'm close to 7,000 today.
Fantastic.
Yeah, she's
All
doing much
right.
better.
Yeah, I'll have 7,000 before the day's out. So my average is still going up. So, because I just wanted to be more than 4,200
Yeah.
a day. So even
Well,
though
congratulations.
So,
You're doing
doing well on
it.
the
Yeah.
steps.
13.
Yeah.
Now this is this week 11 or week 12? I think it's week.
I think we should
11.
call it a week 11 so that we can keep going longer.
Well,
Well-
it ends the week of April 16th, whatever that week is.
Is the end of the semester.
Yeah.
And then when does the new semester start?
June.
Okay.
April till
Somewhere
June,
in
we
there.
have to wait.
No, you don't have to. You do whatever you want. That's
No,
just.
Yeah.
right,
They-
right.
Yeah.
I figured. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
we can keep meeting, it's just the church doesn't
Yeah.
recognize
It just
it.
is-
I say
as a
one of those
semester,
times
sure.
instead of meeting here, we should like go out someplace or do something fun.
Sure.
That would be a good
Like
deal.
do like a dinner thing
A
sometime.
variety thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something. We'll figure it out.
Maybe at the end of our 13 weeks, we can, decide on
Celebrate
a
with a
place
dinner.
and celebrate. Yeah. But for the next, now that we have just a couple weeks left, it's time to start thinking of the next, what you guys want to set as something new and different for your next 13 weeks. Oh, my challenges. Oh, yes. No, I've done much better with my being mean to me.
Meaning you're not being mean to yourself.
I am doing much better about
That's
it,
just-
but I
That's
have
honesty
not
there.
verbally abused myself.
So the next step is to stop thinking
Yes.
of the abuses of yourself.
But yet,
That's hard.
I know it
the other, I don't even know, Sunday or something, getting ready for church.
Thank you.
I didn't say it out loud how obese I felt. I put on my jeans, size 4. And I'm thinking, why am I feeling fat? And here we're using numbers, scales, size of clothes. They weren't the 14 I was in a year ago. They weren't the 24 I'd been in not very long before that in the last, few years. Or they weren't the 34 I was in. But I felt like I'm not good enough yet.
Mhm.
So, yeah, well, in many ways, I feel I'm good enough. But this dang body, the way we look at our bodies and compare ourselves to the rest of the world. But I did not refuse to go to church because I was so terrible, or I didn't send anybody a message. But I had to do some serious soul searching as to, okay, mind. And I had an appointment I see a mental health counselor. It's about every 2 weeks. And I had a good discussion with her. And we talk about, I told her, I didn't know I had a split personality, but we've talked about the little girl who comes back from my past when I was a child that had been so abused.
Yeah.
And when she comes to life and I'm cowering down and hysterical, having nightmares because something has happened in our life to bring that all back. But then I also have the old unhealthy person in me, the drug abuser, the drunk. I'll say drug abuser because even though it was prescription drugs, they were abused even by the doctors who prescribed so much all the time. And so that person comes to put down this person.
Mhm.
And so now it's up to me. I'm working on improving this person, this soul in me. And that's what I know each of us has to work on. And it's a big challenge.
There's a phrase that I hold on to
Okay?
that we're going to tweak a little bit tonight.
Would you pass this around?
That when the devil
You
comes
don't
in
get
your
one.
face to remind you of your past, you remind him of his future.
Yes.
When you're thinking how fat I am, how this I am, how whatever it is you're thinking, detrimental to your health, to your body, negative against yourself, that's your past.
Yes.
You are victorious and overcomer as you head into the future because you are no longer living the way you lived before. So in your past, you need to look into the mirror and say, you know what? This may be exactly where I am now. Understand where I am now, but understand what I've come through and where I'm headed.
Yes.
Because I might not be at my final destination. I'm no way going to be perfect, but I'm headed in the right direction now.
Yes.
Where I wasn't before. So when you are reminded of your past, of who you were, be okay with where you are now and understanding that when you head to the future, it's only going to get better. You're no longer trapped in a body that was leading you down a path to death. You are in a body that is forging forward in a path to life.
Yes.
You are going to
Very
be
good.
healthier and healthier every single day instead of sicker and sicker every single day like you were in the past.
Yes.
No, I think one of the things that you said was remind the devil of his future. And I think a lot of times we forget that we have authority, that we didn't know that we had because we didn't have it before. But once we have Christ and we're redeemed, we have authority. We need to step up and take that. The devil's going to tell us we don't have the authority, but we have the authority in Christ's name. And so we can talk directly to him and rebuke him and say, get out. And the voice is not every voice that you hear in your head is your own, even though it sounds like you, even though historically it sounds like you, the mocking child, all of those things, those hurtful feelings, those memories. Not every voice in your head is your own. And so psychologically, the doctors will try to explain it away, but there's so many other forces out there, the spiritual things that are trying to mock you and keep you away from your victory, but you have authority. And that's for every person in here. You've got that authority. Stand up and take it and claim it. And it's the hardest thing to do, because when we were talking this to the kids last week at church, I was like, when you pray, what do you say? And they're like, I don't know what to say, right? But God promised that he would intercede for us, but we don't even know what to say. So we just need to just start crying out. And that's the hard part, because we already feel like we've failed, or we're hearing those voices. But we just have to remind ourselves and be reminded that the authority has been given to us, and we just need to walk in that. And that's hard, but it's gonna happen.
And having this group to discuss it all, be so open about it. Leslie has been such an influence in my life with her positive vibes. The little note she sends me. She's seen me at my lowest end. But each one of you has brought me something that if I can give away a part of it to the next person.
Also,
So
when
thank
you do that, when you are reaching so many people and you're doing we're here for keto and God,
Yes.
of course the devil's going to try to beat you down. He don't want you bringing people to Christ, bringing people to help. Doesn't want none of that. He's coming to an end. He's got to fight, but you're
He's
stronger
here to
than
kill,
steal,
and
kill,
destroy.
Yeah,
and
honestly,
so to have
whatever
health
order.
and Jesus,
You can be so much more
you're
successful.
an overcomer.
Yeah.
But you keep fighting, because you are.
I'm worth
Gonna
fighting
win.
for.
You
That's
are.
right.
You are.
Just like
I love
each one of you guys are in your
Yeah.
own struggles, and we're all getting better because of it.
That's why I tell you I love you
Oh.
in any kind of way you are to the day. I married all of you, and I love all
Thank
of
you. He finds new parts of me all the time. He had no clue he was marrying.
That's okay.
I love it.
Okay,
I love that.
let's draw a number.
You guys are just